the way to build a really good, sustainable, predictable business is to be doing all of those things. Meeting new people, you've got to talk to people you don't know in order to build your network of people you do know. And so what is the best way for you to talk to a bunch of people that you don't know, right? And that could be over the phone.
Perfect. So we are live on Facebook, and today we're going to be covering some awesome ways on how you can cold call effectively and ethically, because that's pretty important, right? And what leads are the easiest to convert, and how do you get over that rejection? How do you not take rejection personally? We have Curtis Fenn, the president of REDX, with us, and Kent Brown, who is the power prospector. I hear there's nobody better than Kent. And my name is Tara Carter. I am your LCA moderator in Fort Lauderdale. And I'm super excited to just dive right in and figure out, kind of just starting with, what type of leads are the easiest to prospect to when we're using REDX?
So I'll jump in. Tara, thank you so much, and excited to talk about some of these things. I think it's a loaded question, a little bit the easiest thing to prospect, because that's totally different for different people and based on your personality type. So I'm going to give you a long-winded answer if that's okay. The best lead to prospect is the one that provides the biggest ROI based on how comfortable you are with that rejection. Meaning, if you're okay with rejection, if you're okay with a hard conversation, then expired listings are the closest lead to a transaction that you could call on, right? They're the ones who want to sell their home. And I know this will come up. Everybody right now in a hot market, Tara's saying that, well, there's no expireds in my marketplace.
There's still expireds.
Well, we just pulled the numbers to date, as of when I asked for this a couple hours ago. Almost 1.4 million listings have expired or been withdrawn or canceled, depending on, some markets you aren't allowed to prospect those, but 1.4 million properties this year.
Is that across is that your area, or?
That's across the United States.
Okay.
Right. So if you look at the percentage of how many transactions there's been, that's a significant percentage of the listings that get listed that end up being taken off market.
Absolutely. I just looked, we have 37 just today.
Yeah. So people are saying, oh, there's not, but again, back to your question of if you want easy, if your definition of easy is people who are willing to pay a commission, people who have urgency to sell their home because they've been trying unsuccessfully, regardless of the reason. I mean, we all know it's almost always price, especially in this market, or unrealistic expectations. But the second time around, sometimes their expectations are more realistic the second time around, right?
Or let's be honest, and maybe they didn't get the right agent. The right agent told them what they wanted to hear and didn't tell them the truth, because maybe they're in the business to list homes and not sell homes. So there is a difference there. It depends on who you hire.
Yeah, and that gets into a lot of other things that we could talk about for the entire webinar, which is how to do the marketing of your listing, how to write your descriptions so that they show up in searches on local portals and your MLS, and what kind of photography is being done. And you see those standards drop in a market like this, right? Well, it's just going to sell, so I'm going to take out my phone, I'm going to take a few pictures and do this. But as realtors, we are, even the realtor code of ethics is that we're pledging to the best interest of them. Anyway, so yeah, we got to get into why it expired. But back to your question, is it makes for an easy, that could be easy in some people's mind. But other people, Tara, do not want to deal with someone upset on the other end of the phone. They just, that's hard. In that case, there's other lead types out there if you want to fill your CRM quickly, like geo leads or calling around neighborhoods or calling around an open house to invite people to come see your open house.
Those are my
Or-
favorite calls.
Yeah, well, and Ken is pretty good at this. I asked right before we started about some, $3-4 million listings you have, Ken. You're still muted, man. It's your. I hope you don't prospect with that headset.
I do. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. Yep.
Okay, let's go out that headset. Oh.
Yeah. So you have one of my favorite things that Kent does is that when he has buyers for specific properties, he pulls neighborhoods and calls them and his whole script is, I have a buyer that wants to buy your house. Have you thought about listing it? Right. And you've done 2.
So I really enjoy this script. This is a good script for everybody to have. And I've really added this to my arsenal because we are picking up more buyers. And Tara, I'm sure you can testify to this or second this. You have buyers that lose out on properties, don't you?
Of course.
Right now. So what I do is I call and I say, hey, this home over on 123 Main Street, the Dumpies just listed their home for sale. It actually went under contract. The reason I know that is because we put in a solid offer and got beat out. And they're wanting your neighborhood. They're desperate to be in here. For the right price, would you consider selling?
The worst thing that they say is no.
Exactly. But they're interested. What did it sell for? I'm not sure what it sold for. We submitted an offer at $420,000 and lost, and they're willing to go up to $430,000 to get a home in your neighborhood. Is that a price that you would consider?
Well,
and it
maybe.
starts conversations.
Well, and what's great about those conversations is they're not being called by 10 other agents like an expired. They're it's typically a pleasant conversation. You have instant rapport because you're talking about their neighbors, and 100% of people are nosy about their neighbors and want to know what's going on with the sale of their home. So there's interest there. So if your definition of easy, Tara, is a pleasant conversation that you could turn into a contact to say, well, you're not wanting to sell now, but do you mind if I throw you in and give you market updates every once in a while? And they go, sure. And you go, great. Now I'm going to put you into my database. Those are easy calls. If that's what you're looking for, you'll build your database quicker, but you'll set less now business appointments. Right. So
Absolutely.
So
Kent, I had a question for Kent. Kent, when you're making those phone calls and the seller says, obviously you want to know more information, like what did that house sell for? And then you had asked if I would be willing to take an offer that would be close to that 40,000. And I just said the word maybe.
Maybe. Then I just follow up with more questions. Okay, Tara, so it sounds like you do have some interest in selling, and it is a possibility. Tell me, if we were to get my buyer in, they bought your home, where would you go next?
I haven't really thought about it because I didn't think about selling my home.
Okay. So you would essentially be homeless?
Yeah, I don't want to be homeless.
I don't want you to be homeless either. Tell me, Tara, what would be your reasoning for ultimately deciding to sell?
Well, because that sounds like a lot of money, a lot more money than I thought that I could get.
Okay, so money would be your main motivation. Would you want to rent or maybe upgrade?
I think I'd have to see what's out there.
Okay, so it sounds like we need to get together, see exactly what your home can sell for, and then see what inventory is out there so you can take the proceeds from this home and move into your next one. Are you available to meet this afternoon?
I can't do this afternoon. Why don't you just call me next week?
I can absolutely call you next week. My schedule fills up rather quickly. Let's tentatively set an appointment for next week. Would Monday or Tuesday work good for you?
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Mornings or afternoons typically best?
Afternoon.
4 or 5?
5.
Okay. I'll see you at 5.
Thanks, Kent. Will you follow up then with a handwritten note or something?
So I usually will send them out a packet, a pre-listing packet that has a CMA, marketing plan, net sheet. I'll send that out to them, and then I'll call the next day to confirm that they got it and say, are we still okay to meet at 5 on Tuesday?
I hope y'all are taking notes on this, guys. If you have any questions, put them in the chat box.
So
I rarely will send them a thank you card.
Got it.
Probably a good
I
thing.
love
My handwriting's ugly though, so nobody wants to read that.
That's when you just use our other LCA sponsor AM cards.
Ah, there
And
you
you
go.
just type it up and it has its own handwriting. I've heard easy. So you find that the calling around the neighborhood, circle prospecting, possibly
Yep.
for open houses, those tend to be pretty easy. And I love where Curtis is saying too, like the expireds, like they've already raised their hand. They were already on the market. They were ready to move. So putting those into a dialer, I would assume would be a lot easier to kind of pull them. Do you think that it's a limited belief that a lot of people have, Curtis, since you work with the majority that use your services as president of REDX, that they are just like, well, there's no expireds. Everyone's that's on the market selling. Like, I don't need to call expireds.
yeah, I mean, so I've been around long enough that this happened before, right? In 05, 06, everybody said the same thing. There's no expireds, like the market is too hot. Everything is selling. And yet we had agents that were doing $200,000-$300,000 a year in GCI just from expired listings. And what happens is it's a bigger opportunity for those who want to go after it right now because there's less people going after them. So it is a limiting belief. There is expireds, there is withdrawals and canceled, depending on the market that you're in. You can or cannot call those, but yeah, there's a lot of expires. 1,381,000 so far this year.
One cool thing that REDX does too is they allow you to pull old expires. So go back a few years and pull those. I'm finding quite a bit of success with those right now.
That's a good idea.
So yeah, I mean, but that's not I wouldn't say that's the biggest limiting belief, Tara. I think it's actually, I think the challenge for a lot of people right now is and people, if they've heard me say this before, but one of the big challenges in a market like this is people come into the market, they look around at top producing agents and they go, well, how do you build your business? Because you've been in the business a long time, Tara, and you teach people about referrals and how to get referrals. And if a new agent was like, hey, Tara, how do I, what do you do to get your business? You say, well, referrals. And then somebody else who doesn't have a network, they don't really have a sphere of influence, they don't really have any past clients, they can still get referrals, but that's harder. And
Yes.
if they want to expedite building a sphere of influence to get referrals, they need to ask different questions like, what did you do to build your business? What did you do when you were new to build a database to get referrals? And so less limiting beliefs. I think people are out there eager to build their business and they're asking the wrong question. They're asking, what are you doing? And they're trying to duplicate that when they should be saying, what is the fastest way to build a database or fill my CRM with potential clients? What's the fastest way I can do that? And you could do that by walking on the street and being really kind to everybody and shaking everybody's hand and, wearing your logo and giving out your business card. Or how many contacts a day do you make, Kent? Prospecting, cold
40.
calling. 40? Oh man, you're rolling in it because you used to have to do a lot more contacts to reach your goals.
I know. I've gotten better. So
We've gotten better on the phone.
my contact to appointment ratio is a lot better.
Of those 40, how many appointments do you set versus how many people then do you put and maintain contact with that turn into future business?
So my goal is to set one qualified appointment a day and add 3 people to my database into HomeBot.
Okay, so 3 people a day. Do you prospect 5 days a week?
Yep. And I've grown my, I wouldn't call it my sphere because I don't know them personally, but my data bank is what I call it. Because honestly, if you're just withdrawing from a bank, eventually you're going to run out of money. So I mentally say I'm going to make a deposit into my data bank every day. And I add 3 people to that. So I'm up to 1,200 people in my data bank, which has given me 14 listings this year. And these are people that, hey, I don't know if you remember, you spoke with me, you've been sending me emails. Oh yeah, absolutely, pull them up. yeah, we just want to get our home listed, or we're ready to buy a home. So it's just come list means we're ready to buy, because eventually everybody's going to sell their home or buy something.
Eventually, yeah.
Maybe just when you're calling them, they're not ready to do it.
So one of the questions that we had is for REDX, do you run your expireds against relisted, sold, or leased?
Of course. Yeah, we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that you can not prospect an active listing, because back to the ethics of what's going on. If you shouldn't be calling somebody who's been relisted and it has an active listing on the marketplace. So you got to make sure that you're using the right tools to avoid that.
Got it. And that makes sense. And that's why we would want to go with FedEx. Using the right tools and who you work with in the business matters. And I had a question, Bill had a question for you, Jake, or Kent, in regards to why do you send a CAN beforehand? Don't you want to present it before you meet them? I believe you said you were just sending like a market update.
I think you meant CMA.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. So the reason why I send a CMA is because I call and pre-qualify them. If you send them a CMA and a net sheet beforehand, I mean, what's not people's number one objection usually for hiring you? Money, personality, and then time frame. So you're going to get the objections out before you meet them. So when you actually go out and meet them, you're going to have a much higher conversion rate.
That makes sense. If anybody else has any questions, please make sure you put them in the chat. There's no question that I would say that we wouldn't be able to answer. So when we were talking about obviously those leads being, those parts being the easiest, which I love the circle prospecting. I love inviting them to open houses. That's probably my favorite, letting them know that, due to my marketing efforts, I just want to let you know there's going to be a little extra traffic this weekend in your house, in your neighborhood. And if you want to come over, I've listed such house 123 on Main Street. You're welcome to come over. We'd love to meet with you. We're also going to do a neighborhood only open house for the first hour as your exclusive preview to pick your own neighbor. I think picking your own neighbor is fun because a lot of times they don't want to move anyways. I'm like, well, you have a unique opportunity to get to pick your own neighbor. So who do you know that I should know?
One of my favorite lines, if you want to break them down, is better yet, what neighbors can I get rid of for you?
Oh, I like that one too.
Every single time.
Greg is asking, since you're the power prospector, what sort of sales volume do you achieve with your current prospecting efforts?
So going through it, I bet 85% of my business has come from prospecting, whether in the past or current prospecting that I'm doing with systems. So this year I'll do about 52 deals. Next year I'll do about 100 is what I'm trending. And 85 of those will come from prospecting.
The cold calling through REDX.
The cold calling, yeah. So this year, I mean, I can attribute about $400,000 of GCI this year from prospecting.
Not too shabby.
Not too bad.
It's a good start, Kent.
It makes it easier to get on the phones.
Yeah, right. So
I love it. I also have another question. Greg was kind of asking, talk to us on your way or system to save people in your database. So you get somebody that's in the database, whether they're a warm, cold, or hot lead. How are you saving them in your database?
So I use holy cow, what is Follow Up Boss? I was just thinking FUB and I was like, okay, what's FUB? Follow Up Boss for that. And then I use what's called HomeBot. HomeBot is what I do a majority of my stuff with, and it just sends them out a monthly CMA of what their home is worth. Okay. So if they're not actively a hot lead, quote unquote, then I won't. Then I just stick them in HomeBot, and if they call me, great. If they don't, oh well.
I do the same thing. I kind of grade the database, and A's, pluses are typically the ones that I know want to work with me and or have sent me 2 or more referrals, whether they were from cold or they were not. And then A's are the ones that already sent me at least 1 referral, or if they were colder, I know that they at least want to move and we had a great conversation. If they're just not an A+ yet, And then Bs are the ones that are the warmer leads, but aren't just there yet. And then I grade them as a C for the friends and family, and the cold ones that are like, yeah, I guess just here's my email, send me some stuff, and don't really want to talk to me. Then they get C's, and D's just go on the drip campaign, and hopefully one day they'll reach out, but I don't put too much energy into them.
So my A's and B's I put into Client Giant is what it's called.
Oh, I haven't heard that one. Writing that down.
It's $99 a year, and every quarter they send out a personalized gift from you.
Oh, that's cute.
Clients. And trust me, it works. They're cheesy gifts. It's $99 a year. You set it and forget it, and you'll get 1 or 2 referrals off those people every year. So it's worth the investment.
Someone had also asked, what are some other things that you're sending during the year?
Nothing really outside of that. I mean, my A and B clients I'm calling and keeping in touch with every quarter.
Okay. And then I'll answer that and tell you that I send out Kilwin's ice cream, just gift certificates for ice cream for every birthday. Even their dogs get their own dog like ice cream gift certificate. And they also, for happy home anniversary, they also get a gift certificate. And what's great about it is I teamed up with a company that's local that I don't have to pay for those in advance. I get invoiced from them monthly on who actually turned them in. So if I send out 50 and only 3 turn them in, then I'm only paying for 3 that month. It's way better than doing that whole Starbucks cards and all that, in my opinion. And I'm supporting a local business.
I love that.
Yeah, very cool. What's the name of the gift company again, Kent?
Client Giant.
Client Giant.
Client Giant. Very cool. Yeah, I hope that one of the things people are taking away is I think one of the beliefs is, well, you've got to build a business from referrals, or you're a cold caller, right? I don't prospect, or I don't cold call. I work by referral, or I try to work my sphere or circle of influence. When it's all prospecting, right? It's all going after and trying to find new business. And what we're suggesting is the fast way to build. I love that Kent called it a data bank. I wrote that down. I'm totally stealing that.
So that came from Greg Harrelson, not from me.
Okay,
so
well, we'll give him credit. But it's true. And if you think of it that way, that every day you've got to make deposits, and then it's going to pay you interest over time. 14 deals, and you didn't even have to go after them. It's just people that you put into your database, that you're maintaining some sort of contact with, and so. The fallacy is that you have to prospect, and it's all now business, and you grind, or you work referrals. And the way to build a really good, sustainable, predictable business is to be doing all of those things. Meeting new people, you've got to talk to people you don't know in order to build your network of people you do know. And so what is the best way for you to talk to a bunch of people that you don't know, right? And that could be over the phone.
Yeah.
Definitely over the phone. So some ways that we could basically be cold calling effectively. What does that look like? Is it just going through the list? Like when we're taking your system, we're going through REDX. What is some of like the most effective ways to make sure that that your clients are really utilizing REDX the best way possible?
Yeah, and whether it's REDX or any list of people, I'll give my answer, but Kent's the one that should share, because he's built a really successful business on this. But it depends on where you're at in your business. In the beginning, you should just be trying to talk to as many people as possible. And so I would start with an easier, like you said, easier lead type, an easier conversation, maybe is a better way to say it, like prospecting around open houses or just listed, just sold properties, neighborhoods. And your goal is to be, like Kent said, maybe setting an appointment, but your goal primarily should be keeping in touch with more people, bringing more people into that data bank. And over time, all of a sudden you can start to narrow the list, because even Kent, I remember when you used to try to make way more contacts a day than 40. Yeah. And now he tries to do 40. Well, in another year, he'll have to do 30 because he'll have so much business coming in from the data bank. And then maybe the next year, and over time, some of our best clients only cold call infrequently, right? Most SaaS companies are really excited about the usage. We get really excited when we see a customer go from daily use to 4 times a day or 4 times a week to 3 times a week to a couple times a week, because we know that their business is growing. So I think you start with going through whoever you can. It's about volume in the beginning. Over time, you get more targeted on who you want to contact.
And when you first started and the business, and you didn't obviously really have any business at all, and you decided to pick up the phone, were you just calling expireds, or were you circle prospecting around other houses that just sold? Or
So I did a little bit of everything. I wish I wouldn't have, though. I think it affected my confidence calling expireds and FSBOs from the offset, new expireds and new FSBOs, because when I would go on the appointments, I would get just dog walked by the other agents, because it is competitive. So I think you have to build your skills. Not that I'm saying it's bad to call expireds and FSBOs, but have a mentor that's been doing it for a while go out with you. Your confidence isn't that great. Anyways, so I did that, and then I would substitute contacts with geo leads. And geo leads are the best route to go, because again, you're usually alone and you're not competing against anybody to sell their home. So it's just an out of the call blue. I would say this: the higher the rejection in cold calling, the bigger the reward.
facts.
So geo leads, you're not going to get as high of rejection, but you're not going to get the big reward either. You'll definitely pick up business and add to that data bank. But with expireds, and FSBOs, you're going to get harsh rejection, but you're going to see that you have to make less contacts to get onto an appointment. And those people are more motivated to sell typically.
I stick to a kind of like an affirmation when I get all those no's, which is some will, some won't, so what, next. And
Yep.
sometimes that's like my 5-second funeral. Sometimes when I get the no's and I'm like, some will, some won't, so what, next. And then like, just move on. Like, let's go to the next. What do you consider a contact?
So I used to consider a contact, I had a real estate conversation with them. My coach really changed my mindset that, hey, if they know who you are, where you're from, and why you're calling, and they hang up, that's still a contact. So that's what I count. Hi, I'm Kent with Summit Realty. The reason for my call is your home expired off the market. They hang up, contact. So, and the reason why that is because you have to count the wins.
That
And
makes
that's
sense.
what I mean, it's a contact sport. And if you're counting all the big wins, you're going to find out you're not having very many of those with prospecting. You're having 1 or 2 a day.
Do you find that you have some scripts that are better for calling an opening script for expireds versus others?
Opening script. So not necessarily. No, I think it's just speaking slow and sounding different. I've stopped asking for their name because salespeople ask for names. Hi, am I speaking with Tara? I just say, hey, Tara, this is Kent over at Summit Realty. I'm calling because your home expired off the internet or off the market. I'd like to apply for the job of selling the home. Are you available? Blank. And I close from the first question. Because typically they're not listening, but I think the introduction is speaking slow and calling them by name, even if it's the wrong number.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's
I've
totally.
had great conversations over wrong numbers.
And you do.
You ever gotten any listings from wrong numbers, Kent?
All the time. All the time. And it usually starts out with, Tara's probably had this conversation. It's funny you call, or it's funny we're talking right now because I'm actually thinking about selling my home.
Yep.
The universe brought us together.
Yep.
Yeah, the ones I've sold that were the wrong numbers is exactly how that conversation changed. Well, you have the wrong number, but you can come see how much my house is. I'm thinking about it. You got it. And then the only other thing that I've learned over time when I started getting more appointments, and I'm sure you found this too, is that you don't know somebody's personality style when you're calling them and it's cold. So you don't know exactly if it's too much of in the disc profile. I mean, the best way to really know their disc profile and what type of personality that they are that you're going to go into is asking them to describe their home for them. And the way that they describe their home is going to tell you what type of personality type they are. You know, if they're going to say, well, it's a four bedroom, 2 bath, what else do you want to know? You can see it when you come over. Well, then I know it's a high D. I'm going to be direct and straight to the point, no fluff for them. If it's going to be a high I, it's going to be, well, it's a 4 bedroom, 3 bath. And we have this amazing kitchen where we love to entertain. Our friends come over all the time and our yard is huge. So then I know that appointment's going to take a little bit longer. Because they're a high I. And then the S and C's depends on, I love the C's, you know, it's a 4 bedroom, 3 bath, we're 2,600 square feet under air. And we just replaced our 410 AC unit upstairs and downstairs. And they'll go through every detail, like the lot size is exactly this. So I think paying attention to their disc profile so that when you go into the appointment to mirror match them is super important. And just kind of helps your conversions. I just noticed that when you start getting more appointments because you get better on the phones, or when you have no business at the beginning, I just went to every appointment because I was like, well, if I go to 10, if I just land one, that's good. But the problem is that the time block, you know, didn't work for me. So I started, and I don't know if you've ever done this. So I started giving everybody a time frame when I'll be there. So does 4 or 6 o'clock work better for you? Oh, 6 o'clock. Okay. So I will be there between 6 and 7 o'clock or 5:30 and 6:30, and I'll text you when I'm on my way. I give them a time period of an hour window and I let them know when I'm on the way, because you know, as well as I do, sometimes that person really needed you a little bit longer because you didn't know the personality style. And if my cable company can give me an 8-hour window and I'm more important than them, why can't I?
Yeah.
So they all get an hour window. And then if I show up, the appointment was at 6 o'clock. I said that I'd be there between 6 and 7. If I show up at 6:59, I'm not late.
So here's a script that we've done before that is highly effective for your show rates and your pre-qual. Is most people, and I wish I had the articles that showed all this because we could post them, but I'm sure with a quick Google search you could find them. But people don't remember time slots on the hour. They forget phone numbers that end in zeros easier than they remember other phone numbers. There's all these things where your brain disregards information. And so you go, well, would 2 or 3 be better? 3 o'clock, great. That's, you know what, actually, would 3:15 work? You know, and even if you gave them a time slot, would 3:15, 4 o'clock work? Because the quarter hour, people will remember more, and anecdotally, when people use that script, when they call back and they say, hey, are we still going to meet at 3:15? They go, yep, I remember. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot you're coming over. is an interesting thing for just human behavior and brain. So
pre-qualifying helps big time though. I think that's when my business went from here to here, was once I started pre-qualifying every single person that I talked to for listing.
For listings.
Yep.
What percentage of your business is sellers versus buyers?
I'm about 50-50 right now, which I'm really hoping to get out of that, because if I'm going to do 100 deals next year, buyers are what really slowed me down from hitting that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know we work with 3 to 5 buyers at a time, but I could take up to 15 listings at a time.
Yep.
And listings bring you buyers.
Yep. Every time.
A lot of the buyers you worked with were from some of those listings as well.
A majority of them were. So I double-ended a lot of it just off of my sign writers and getting calls and
nice.
bringing the buyer as well as the seller. People like that.
I like that.
I like it because then my TC is really happy.
Oh, and wait, let me guess. You can use REDX to cold call the neighborhoods and circles prospects, or if you called an expired, got the listing, then you can use REDX again to circle prospect to see if they know anybody who wants to live close to them, because they get to pick their own neighbor. And you're telling me that you could double end it and keep it off market. Is that what I'm hearing?
You can do that. Even better, if you get a house with multiple offers, that is a great time to call and say, I was the listing agent, we got multiple offers. I know for a fact there's still 4 families that want to be in this neighborhood, or 5. When do you plan on moving?
I like doing that with door knocking too. And I have the
Bring the
printout of the
offers.
offers in my hand. And I'm like, I had 27 families that lost out.
Yep.
And that means I had to disappoint 27 people. There's a high demand for your neighborhood. Please tell me that you possibly are considering selling. And if you're really smart, I have a little trick where I take one of my godchildren and I put them in a wagon, and they're the ones that knock on the door.
Throw some dirt on their face.
Yeah, and they're the ones that knock on the door, because no one, like, I've noticed that my conversion for people answering the door went way up when I had the little kid knock on the door and have like a lollipop. And you're not, I mean, listen, we talk about ethically, right? This is not, when they say no soliciting in a neighborhood, I'm not selling anything. I don't have a house to sell. I'm just asking you if you know anybody that's looking to sell in the neighborhood, so I can help one of the 27 families that just lost out. I'm not selling anything.
So I actually did door-to-door sales, and in Denver of all places. So there was a lot of no soliciting neighborhoods. And the way the attorney broke it down is this way. No soliciting means that you're part of an HOA, so you can't solicit to your neighbors. Doesn't mean outside people can't come in and solicit to you.
There's always a gray area. I love the gray.
There you go.
We did get a question from Ernie about, do you attend every showing of your listings? I think that's definitely for another webinar, but since we love our LCA family so much, I personally do attend only my luxury. I do not attend. I do have showing assistants. I run a showing assistant model. My time is very valuable, so my agents are trained.
I think that's great. I don't. I feel like it makes it awkward.
It makes it so awkward
for everybody. So the listing agent's there, and then some random persons, or the buyer's agent, and then some random person is there. So if it's a higher end listing, I'll call the agent beforehand and have them send me a pre-qual letter or proof of funds.
Yeah, that one helps. And whenever the sellers give me their objections about why, well, we want you to be here for every showing, I always tell them, have you ever been to a friend's house and they were just so proud of it and they loved it so much, and you just thought it was absolutely disgustingly ugly? And when they asked you, how did you like their home? What did you say? Did you tell them the truth? Or did you tell them that everything was great? You probably told them everything was great, right? So it's just like that. When you're home, or when I'm here, the buyer's not going to be able to be, comfortable with their agent to tell them everything that they feel and they think about the home, because they're there and they feel intimidated. So we need them to be honest with their agent, and we need to get the best and honest feedback. Therefore, I'm not going to be there and you're not going to be there, and we're all leaving.
I have a similar script. I just say, have you ever gone into a store and had an assistant follow you around, a store clerk follow you around? It's exactly what I would be doing.
I'm writing that down. It's true.
So lock up your valuables, and we'll know the agents that came in and out if something goes missing.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. And most people have cameras in their phone anyway, in their house now. We have a question from Rick about, when someone is put into your data bank as a good catch, Rick, as a cold lead, what is the follow-up process? Do you call back every couple months, do a weekly email?
So if they're a cold lead, I will eventually sell down the future. I just set them in HomeBot. I set them and forget them. Unless they're A and B clients, they're not getting a follow-up call from me. Because I'm looking for the people that are motivated right now, but I also need something to supplement for those people that are interested in the future. But that's not me giving them a personal call.
And yet you still did 14 listings this year from that.
Yeah. Honestly, it's the best way. If you have too many leads, it does a couple of things to you. You get attached to those leads. So starting at every day at 0 is huge. I don't care who you are. So Tara, you probably make a decent living.
Sure do.
Or you could take this whole month off, right? In December.
If I wanted to, I'm probably up to 11 months with no paycheck. I could still live my lifestyle.
Yep. So what gets you motivated every day to go into work? For me, it's like, I don't count on what's ahead. I'm only I look at it this way. You're 11 months from going out of business completely. I'm 2 to 3 months from going out of business completely. Till I run out of inventory, buyers. Because once you're not working with buyers or you don't have listings, you're out of business. So start every day at zero. It's a good medicine.
I think that people, when I get asked the question, like, what's so hard about being a realtor? I'm like, I wake up every day unemployed. Every day I'm at ground zero. So I meant like having reserves of how long could I go without a paycheck, but I'm already freaking out because I don't have any closings in February, and like it's December. So this time of year is push on the gas. It's always looking forward. Whatever you do today isn't going to show up for 60 to 90 days later. And then it's never guaranteed to close. So you have no income to be able to actually like count on, because it could be 90 days later and then fall out on day 89 and you start all over.
Yeah.
This is pretty common that we see. A lot of what we do is trying to help agents build sustainability or predictability in their business by having a constant. It's this concept of consistency coming into the business, consistency going out. But both of what you just described right there is a separation of money and what the business is doing, and agents often don't do that. In fact, we've done surveys before where a staggering number of real estate agents combine their personal finances and their business finances. They have no ability to separate those two things. And so what happens is you get these huge commission checks, and in your mind, I'm doing great. And the behaviors in your business that created that start to diminish. And that's why you see a lot of agents that are feast or famine, right? I mean, they're eating lobster or they're boiling top ramen, and they don't have that sustainability in their business. And part of that goes back to consistently talking to people you don't know, putting them in systems that produce business on the outcome, and doing that consistently outside of the money, outside of the income that you're making as an agent. Because that income will come and it will fluctuate. But if you're constantly like Kent, 40 contacts a day, 1 appointment a day, 3 people into my data bank, people from my data bank moving into Follow Up Boss and turning into transactions. And that consistency of that means the income will continue to go up, and you can have more sustainable business.
Absolutely. I also think that it's important to, when the agent is running, and I'm guilty. I did that in the beginning, and I would get a paycheck and I was like, oh my gosh, look how much money I just made. And then I wasn't running my business as a business. Right. So I did put in the group chat, Profit First. The Profit First book changed my life. That's how I run my business now for 2 years. Like I get a paycheck and the only profit I make is 10%. I put 30% for taxes, now 15. And 30% goes to operating expenses, to pay myself back for whatever it is. It's just, I have 7 bank accounts because they all get synced as different things. So then I'm only running my business off of one account, if that makes sense. And not the personal. I think that's been very helpful. And then also, and I hope there's some new agents on this. I know it's harder said than done. Once you are financially not attached to the outcome, your sales skills will triple, literally. Because if you're financially attached to the outcome, people smell commission breath. Like they know when you've been eating lobster and you're not eating lobster because you're eating tuna now. Like they know when you're hungry and not for the right reason. Would you agree?
100%.
Yes. Yep.
I think there's another way to call it. Commission breath and something else. I forgot what it is.
So what's funny is I was telling my broker and I went on a listing appointment today up in Salt Lake, and we were talking, and she's like, you essentially doubled your income from last year. You have to be happy about that. And I said, Gene, the funny thing is I feel poorer this year than I ever have in my entire life.
Why do we do that?
And I think it's because we're like, okay, I don't know what the reason is, but I think a big reason is we're looking at it saying you get around bigger minded people. And I think that is the exact reason. This year, I've ditched the people in my life that
You outgrew them.
I outgrew them. There we go. I outgrew them, got a new set of friends. And man, I just feel freaking poor around them.
But you know what's going to be really great is when you outgrow them and have to go get richer friends.
Yes, but
I don't mean richer just financially, richer mindsets, richer,
Yes.
just the way that they think, the way that they just think bigger, right? It's okay to
Yes.
outgrow people.
There is something to be said about that. It's funny, I am a chatty Cathy in the office. I am an expressive to the max.
Me too.
And I was talking to my coach and he said, you need to stop talking to the assistants and start talking to the top producers, because that's what's going to separate you. He's like, I don't care. I know that you're going to make it when the assistants start saying, man, what product Kent's buy? And it's not going to be because you're mean to them. It's because when you walk into the office, you're going to have a presence and a mission, and people are going to feel it.
I hope people really just heard what he said, because I can't tell you how many times that happens. And the higher you climb, the lonelier it gets. And those people, when they're talking, Grant Cardone says it too. If you don't have 10 haters, you're not doing something right. When you get 10 haters, go get 10 more. And I was like, I don't want haters though. And I was like, the more success I've had, I'm like, I got 10, I need more, I guess. And that's okay, because you stopped having conversations at the water cooler with the other ones that didn't want to get on the phones or think big. And, because it's not that their way of thinking is wrong or different. It's just not the same path and goals that you have.
Yeah.
So you found those that you'd be the dumbest one in the room and not the smartest one in the room, right?
Yep. I mean, even my role play partner, like coaching, if you're not in coaching, you should get into coaching. I don't care who it's with. But coaching just raises your mindset. Like this year, my coach said, what of your role play partners, because I take pride in prospecting. I feel like I'm really good at it. He said, what role play partners have told you you're good? And I said, all of them have. Get rid of all of them and get new ones. I want you to be the worst one, not the best one. It tells me that you're hanging around crappy agents that don't know how to prospect. So I was like, okay.
So did you find one that
and I hate it. It's like every day I get on and I'm just like, okay, here we go.
Well, let me guess, you feel uncomfortable. And when you feel uncomfortable, that's typically when we grow the most.
Yep. I'm uncomfortable with these people. Like I felt like, I was like, dang, I'm good. Nope. I'm uncomfortable every day. And the nuances of prospecting aren't just like, get on the phone, make the call. I mean, that is the basis of it. But once you start getting good, again, why I'm at 40 contacts instead of 80 contacts a day is because I've had to change my voice inflections. I've had to slow my rate of speech. There's more NLP involved with it, neuro-linguistic programming. And just the science of it all, I feel like a psychologist, honestly.
We are psychologists.
I mean,
we just don't always get paid the same, or sometimes we do.
yeah.
Hey, can I jump in just with our topic of ethics? I think with what Kent is saying, it is an important part of the ethics, because you could look at prospecting saying you're bugging people, right? That's the most common thing that people say about cold calling. You're bugging them, or you're interrupting them and in your life. But you look at how many people Kent has helped move to the next stage of their life. And that's what we're doing in this industry. You're helping people with most often the largest asset of their life. And right now, probably the thing that provides them the most amount of net worth in this market. I mean, people are experiencing equity like they've never experienced before. And we are asked to handle that. And as we increase our skill, what is less ethical or more ethical? Is it Kent bugging someone who wants to sell and helping them do so, or someone inexperienced listing and overpricing a home and taking crappy photos and even allowing the listing to expire in the first place? Like which one is better for that person? Which experience takes somebody who expired and is frustrated? Often they blame the agent. And I get often it's not the agent's fault. Sometimes it is, but even if they blame that, what is more is it better that we allow them to stay and have a terrible experience, or is it better that we change that experience and their perception of what a real estate agent can do to help them in their life? And I think it took us a while to get there in the topic. We've talked about a lot of great things, but when it comes to the ethics of cold calling, I'm looking at Kent and the experience that even you just explained of your skill getting better and you learning human behavior in a way that you can help more people achieve what they're trying to achieve. I go, where is the ethics line in that? I mean, how could that ever be considered unethical, really? Right. And so, yeah, I think at the end of the day, listening to Kent and listening to these people, we're trying to help people move to their, to the next milestone in their life. And the best way to do that is the way Kent is describing, right?
I think my coach phrases it this way: if you can, you must. At first, I didn't feel like I could list your home better than anybody else, but now, and Tara will probably has the same mindset. I will list your home. I will work harder to get it sold. And I care more than anybody else that you get to where you need to be, more than any other agent out there. Because if you're selling their home and you do a crappy job, well, guess what? They just got excited to go be with their, I'll give you an example. Called and expired 3 weeks ago. Lady took pictures on her phone, and you could tell they were phone pictures on the MLS. She never communicated with her. She listed the house and was gone. This lady was packed, ready to move to Houston to be with her grandkids. That didn't happen. So because that agent did a disservice to that lady by taking the listing and then advertising it incorrectly, she wasn't allowed to be in Houston with her grandkids. Happy to say it's under contract. It closes tomorrow and she will be able to go to Houston with her grandkids. So I think prospecting and ethics and everything has to go with what is your mindset? Are you calling for a commission check? Or are you calling to really help out these people, which comes with uncomfortable conversations of asking them where they're going. And maybe they'll say, that's none of your business. You're absolutely right. I just want to make sure I get you to where you need to be, because your next move is important, right? Yes, it is. So if you go with that mindset, there is nothing unethical about calling an expired or canceled. They had somewhere to be. They weren't there because of the job the agent did. So you're going to save the day.
Absolutely. And speaking of ethical, guess who just jumped on our call today in the perfect timing as we're talking about what is ethical and what is not.
What's up, Tara?
How you
Curtis,
doing?
Kent, how are you?
Tristan?
Good. How are you, Tristan?
Good. I don't think I'd talked to Tara. Tara, I see you on Facebook all the time, but I haven't talked to you for a while.
I know we haven't been on a Zoom in a while.
So nice to see you. And Kent, dude, the last time we talked was another REDX webinar.
I know, and I heard it got sticky for the ethical conversation.
Mhm.
So you kind of wanted to end on that one.
I love it. Well, look, ethics, when it comes down to it, any company that's functioning at a high level isn't going to tell you to do something that's unethical, right? Meaning, don't do things that are going to put you in harm's way with any type of a law, right? But when it comes to our business, because I come from a telemarketing background, I was selling ink cartridges, windows, I was selling a whole bunch of junk. And when I called people, I wasn't told to sell them things that didn't work or force them to buy anything in any way, or even calling people that don't want to be called, right? So this is why I love REDX. It gives you the option. If you don't want to call the do not call people, right? Then you don't have to, because it pops them all up saying, hey, you want me to exclude them from there? Great. You don't call them. And I think there's the debate goes on so much. You have some coaches that tell you, yeah, call everybody. Don't worry about it. But you know what? They're not in your shoes. They're not living the life that you have. You're already having a problem. Some of us can't even pick up the damn phone because it weighs like 1,000 pounds. And you want us to call people on the do not call list on top of that? Like, no way. So I think when it comes to calling people that are on, because that's what ethics, this whole calling thing is about, calling people that are on the do not call list, I don't think you can rely on anybody telling you whether or not you should or shouldn't. It should fall on what you believe, right? And if, like in New York, you just can't call, then guess what? Don't call. That's it.
Sounds pretty simple.
Yep.
So stick to using REDX to call people that like we upload our past clients into it. We upload our sphere. There's a connection to it on our CRM, so it's much easier, right? And Kent, I love the background poster or big frame limitless. I love that. That's so cool, guys. So what did you guys end up saying in regards to ethics?
I think we just barely got on the topic.
Yeah,
That's our topic.
I think I wrote down some ideas. We need to have Kent on by himself with someone, because he just needs to go through his day, because he's such a power prospector. I think we need to follow up and get, because all the questions are, well, what do you do next, and what do you say to this, and how do you deal with this, so part two, or another webinar, Kent, you're going to have to just get on and walk people through your whole system and how you got to $400,000 in GCI with 85% of it coming from prospecting. And
prospecting, who did we go over that? Like, who was he calling? Okay.
Yeah, but a lot of the questions are, the time blocking and who does he consider an A and B client, versus when is he calling, what time's the day, is it on the weekends, is it the weekdays? Like a lot, I think that it's definitely a need for somebody just kind of walking a day through Kent's prospecting life.
I love that. That would be fun. Tara, we could totally jump in on that and be like, I'll be the buyer, you can be like the seller.
Done.
And I'll be a little bit hard on you, Kent, but not too hard. Not too hard.
Deal. I am up for that. So I just want to leave, because I know we're wrapping up, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So I want to leave on this one thought. I kind of battled with this last week when, ethics of cold calling. I think there's the two sides of it, Tristan, that you talked about, of calling the do not call list and doing things that are on the illegal side, that are unethical. Mm-hmm. And then I think you have the side that people think it's unethical because you're disrupting people.
Or you're calling someone else's business. That was someone else's listing. We hear that a lot.
That's unethical. That's stupid.
It is. But I would say this. I would bet the people that put that are people that are going to their office, leaving their families for 5 to 6 hours or 8 hours, and sitting there in their office wondering where their business is going to come from rather than getting it. I don't think there's anything more unethical than not taking care of your family and leaving your wife and your kids and going and doing nothing.
I think that's a big chunk of it, Ken, but there's an underlying story that's being told inside of that person's head. And that's that when they're calling, they're now projecting how they feel onto the situation and saying, hey, well, I don't want anybody knocking on my door, calling me while I'm eating dinner. Why the hell would anybody else want that? And that's the problem, right? You can't project that crap on other people. That's what's limiting you in the first place. So get that out the door. That's not unethical. That's called doing your job and working, right?
Yep.
That's what it's called.
Yep.
So Kent, agree with you, dude. I love your angle. And is it Michelle? Michelle says, yes, please, we want a part 2. So let's do that. And she says, Kent, do you always call at the same time every day? What time do you feel is best? I'm always resistant about calling people before 10:30 a.m.
So I would say do it in the morning, right? Swallow the Frog. Who is it? Brian Tracy that says that, has the book Swallowing the Frog. And the reason why I say do it in the morning is because you have the most energy. That's your free time. And calling people before 10 or 10:30, if they have a house, they're probably already working and awake well before then. So I wouldn't, if they're asleep, they're going to mute their phone. So I call personally new expireds at 7:50 every morning.
I love that, dude. And you're in Utah.
Yep.
All right. And we might see you at a mastermind in April or May, I hear, that you
Ooh.
probably didn't know about.
That Tristan's planning right now as he
Right
just saying,
now.
right now.
I like
Park, Park City.
That's
That's
right.
what I hear. Anyway,
That's right.
You hear that, Tara? Park City.
Yeah, I hear that. I've never been, so let's go.
You're not missing out.
No, I hear you.
That's so funny.
I'm kidding. I'm from Idaho. I think Idaho is way prettier than Utah in some aspects.
You
Tara,
have
if
been
you-
great, my dear.
If you do come out and love it, I know a good realtor out here that can help you find a property.
Yeah.
So
Good to know. Well, thanks, Mr. Round. This was awesome. Honestly, I hope you guys got some value. Jake also put in the link for the $150 savings because you are part of our LCA family and we appreciate you. So REDX is something that you guys should definitely check into. If you have any questions, please reach out to Curtis. I'm sure we're definitely doing a part 2 with Kent. Maybe Tristan and I will also be the buyer and seller and just kind of pick part his day and do some role playing.
I love it. Let's do it.
Awesome. Well, you guys are awesome. Again, this will be on YouTube. It is recorded for those that asked, and you can catch that on YouTube in the next 48 hours. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, and it's been awesome. Have a great day.